You are listening to On the Record with Tiffany and Kevin on 9:30 a.m. The Answer,
where we are the descendants of Freedman, and we are providing an unapologetic Black first radical Republican perspective. Unapologetically Black first Republicans is what we are. All right, so Tiffany, in the last section we talked about Black people are not happy with Democrats, nor the Republican Party either, right? But extremely not happy with the Democratic Party. But the change that we're seeking, right, as B1 Americans, the change that we're seeking is something that can be done in the Republican Party. And I'm surprised at the number of people who just don't see that.
Well, they should see it because we have a historical precedent that supports the statement.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Because that's exactly what happened when slaves were freed, and we had this entire freedman population.
Yep.
That's exactly what happened. The freedmen came into the Republican Party, began to elect people in the primaries and put up candidates, freedmen candidates in the primaries. So you had Black people holding office at rates that we'd never seen before, obviously, but haven't seen since.
Yeah, we haven't.
Haven't seen since. So, we have the historical precedent.
Yeah.
It can be done. It was done. We're not talking about something we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah. And we're also talking about they did that in an environment that was not socially conducive to that was not legally conducive to that.
They did that in an environment that was
of hostility, of straight out hostility, right? So how much more can we do in the current environment that we're in?
This is a great environment because we can affect change.
We can. And the other thing is that we have the ability to get into the process. You cannot effect change if you are not involved in the process. You cannot affect change if our vote is monopolized by one party. And then we simply say, hey, we're not going to leave this party. We're not going to vote. They're going to see how much they tank. And then they're going to come to us and ask for change. Is that not, I don't know. I want to use the word dumb.
Well,
What's your word?
I keep saying the same thing over and over again. You have to have representation in both parties. The reason you need representation in both parties is that when the Republicans are in charge, you still have a voice. You still have people at the table talking about your issues and progressing, moving forward, the issues that you want to move forward. If you only have representation on one side, not only do they not have to listen to you because nobody's advocating for you on the other side, so you're not going to have the votes that you need between the two. You are limited in every possible way. Because you can't forward your agenda. You don't have enough support between the two.
So let's talk about a specific one, right? And this is the one that we see a lot on TV, right? Police shootings, right? So I looked up the number on the Washington Post where there are like 435 or so unarmed Americans shot and killed. It's like 435. I may be off one or two, but 435 that were shot that were unarmed. These are unarmed Americans, Black and white, Mexicans, unarmed, right? And there was no recourse, right? 179 of those were white people. Now, this isn't one of those, hey, 179 were white. They were shot, so to dismiss the others that were non-white. But what I'm saying is, based on the model, we have a historical case study, a historical model of what it's like to build a coalition within the Republican Party, right? That achieved a lot. It achieved the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment in an environment of hostility and terror. Right? How much more can we achieve now? And don't start telling me that we're experiencing white terror with the police. The police are hired by are employees of your local government, and you can have a process over to rein that in. But here, let's talk about the police, right? When I gave the number of 179 white people, and the reason I give that number is that is a perfect opportunity to say, let's build a coalition. Hey, remember this? We were telling you these things were happening. Here, we can build a coalition, inroads at the local level, right? Which a lot of, and I'm going to say it, a lot of the local BLM, Black Lives Matters group, a lot of them are attempting to build coalitions at the local level, but they're not getting any press on that. They're not really getting any assistance. Even the young lady here locally, she had a huge impact on going back at the local level, working with local people, right? The one thing I like about San Antonio is that there is a lot of working back and forth between Republicans and Democrats to make the city better. Now, those are facts.
Which is what politicians should be doing. They should be serving all of the constituents and not just the constituents that voted for them. That's not what the job is. But to whatever point you're trying to make with the police shootings, the police are okay.
But
go ahead.
But my point on that that I was trying to make that is an opportunity, a perfect opportunity for there to be a building of a coalition at local levels to address law and order, but also accountability and responsibility with the police officers, that you are not a special operator, a special military operator going around, and we're not in a country that is besieged by the military, where you have the power and authority of God, but the responsibility of a 4-year-old. That you are held accountable, and we can determine that. So we figure out who's elected, and who is the elected official that's responsible for holding the police accountable.
The militarization of the police is
taking action on that individual. Go ahead. You were saying?
I was saying the militarization of the police is something that you can build a coalition around with other people who are because they're pulling this stuff on people who are from a certain socioeconomic status. If they think they troll poor neighborhoods, the ones that are committing these atrocities against citizens, they're profiling people. And they're profiling blacks, they're profiling poor whites, they're profiling anybody that they think doesn't have enough power to go against them.
Yeah, it is. And that is not, I'm going to use a fancy term called, that I've seen people use on the internet, a class reductionism, which says we're going to pull race out, because we do know amongst those people who are being killed, right, unarmed people who are being killed, that I hate this term, disproportionate number of them are black. But what we're saying is that this is a perfect opportunity to build a coalition with a group of people. Right, to get something changed, because within my mindset is always, what is the end goal? What is the end goal that we're trying to achieve? And if our end goal is X, and we can still do that, but we have to be able to do that in a coalition with people. That's just simply how our government is set up. And we've got to do it not just at the national level, but at the local level as well. And the reason I push...
We need to do it with a coalition of people because of the numbers that we can pull with the coalition of people. And because of the sheer fact that they're doing this across the board and just going ape on anybody that they think doesn't have enough power to stop them.
Yeah, and And before I get do not put a bunch of you are against the police. You can be for the police and against police brutality. You can think and chew gum at the same time. And
There shouldn't be police brutality.
period.
And police officers will tell you there shouldn't be police brutality. So trying to make these false equivocations or all or nothing arguments is ridiculous, because the bottom line to it is that most police officers are doing what they should be doing. But the ones who aren't can take your life.
Yep.
And they have to be drummed out.
And not just take your life. They can physically
brutalize you.
They can physically assault you and beat you up because I'm amazed at the number of people who are beaten up by popping off. Quote unquote popping off, saying something smart with a smart mouth, or they didn't like your tone and they escalate the situation, right?
Or just beaten up because they want to beat somebody up. You didn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know, like that little old lady, she didn't say anything. She was just...
Yeah, and there's a little old lady in 2020 back in Colorado who was beaten up and brutalized.
Little white lady.
By police officers. And what we're saying is that what we're saying as descendants of Freedman, as African Americans, right, that we approach this with a B1 perspective.
As black folks.
Yeah, with a B1 perspective, and that we form coalitions with others to help us get our outcome, and also they get their outcome, and it creates a better America. That we seize back the narrative, right, from the far left, and we seize back the narrative from the far right. The far left is that we as black people are simply victims of society. The far right is that you're a bunch of animals who deserve what you get. And what those two extremes do is they box in ordinary people. They box in ordinary people and into these mindsets that disable them.
And they pit people against one another.
Yeah.
As long as we let the far left and the far right have their way, then we're going to be perpetual victims, and it's somebody else's fault. Yep. Everything is white people's fault, or everything is minorities' fault, and we'll always be fighting with one another. The moment that we look up and stop listening to the narrative and create our own argument and our own coalitions and start working together, we can disseminate them and get rid of them.
Yeah. And you've been listening to On the Record with Tiffany on 9:30 a.m.
Tiffany and Kevin.
Yeah, she included me on that one. We'd like to know what you think about this. Visit our YouTube channel and drop your comments.